This is Chad Hennings, gentlemen. Give him a round of applause.
Thanks, Jason. You guys, you know what I like about this photo? I have hair.
You got more than me.
Yeah, well, I guess that's all a relative term. 2 days ago, I was at the University of Iowa speaking to their football team, John Highland's alma mater. Tonight I'm going to the Cowboy game, preseason game against the Broncos. Next week I get... You can't hear me?
Can't hear you. I can
Get it mic'd up?
Yeah.
I can just...
You want to hold it?
I'll just hold it, that's fine, if I can move. Okay. I will start over for you, sir. 2 days ago, I was at the University of Iowa speaking to their football team. Tonight, I'm going to the Cowboy preseason game against the Broncos. And next week, I get to fly out to Florida State to talk to their football team. So I got football on the brain. And it is the time. And I got to tell you, young guys, God not mean for man to play football in Texas in July and August, did it? It is hot out there. It is hot. You know, and it does. It takes a lot of commitment to play in this heat. It's a total mind game. It is a total mind game, knowing that you're going to go out there and you're going to hurt. It's going to be painful. But that's all part of training to be a man. Sometimes you got to go through the physical pain in life to get the rewards that are on the back end. You know, one of my favorite stories, you know, John, you can empathize with this, is that did it take more commitment to be a player in the NFL, or does it take more commitment to be a fan of your favorite team in the NFL? So none of you guys are Cowboy fans. Usually I get a couple smirks out of that. One of my favorite stories that exemplifies this point, there's a story that's told about two young men who were throwing the football back and forth in Golden Gate Park in the San Francisco Bay Area. As these two young men were throwing the pigskin back and forth, a large Rottweiler jumps out of the bushes and begins to maul one of the young men. His buddy was a quick thinker. He ran up to a nearby picket fence, and he took that picket off the fence, ran up to that dog, slid that picket underneath that dog's collar, and incapacitated the dog. The verbiage here in Texas means he killed the dog. Okay, we're not politically correct. So he took the dog out, and a reporter from the Bay Area saw the whole thing. He said, "Son, that's the most awesome display of heroism and courage I've ever seen." He began to write a headline for the next day's paper. He said, "San Francisco 49er fan saves friend from vicious animal attack." You know, a young man being from the Bay Area, he said, "Sir, you know, I'm not a 49er fan." He said, okay, being from the Bay Area. He said, "Oakland Raider fan saves friend from vicious animal attack." He said, "Sir, I'm not a Raider fan either." He says, "Well, what are you?" "I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan." That reporter began to write the headline, "Redneck Moron Kills Family Pet." This is the year of the Cowboys. They're going to do a good job this year. But we still consistently need fans and need you to cheer them on. You know, before with having football on the brain, we're going to get into my message here in a couple of minutes. We're going to have a little fun. But the one thing, based on what I saw here today with these young men standing up here and some of the remarks by Jason, I want to touch on a point that's near and dear to my heart, and that's legacy. More importantly, your identity. You know, each and every one of us. I love the great mix here, from the older gentlemen, the wise sages who sit at the gate of the city, to these young men. I love the mix, because that's what life is all about. It's mentorship, passing on. It's actually modeling what it means to live a life of legacy. What is your identity? You guys, each and every one of us have a specific story that you're writing. That is all part of God's plan. Your thoughts, your words, your actions are all being written down as a part of your legacy. And I think it's so important that you determine what type of legacy you're going to leave, because it's a choice. And I think a great book, that really impacted my life was a book written by a gentleman by the name of Dietrich Bonhoeffer called The Cost of Discipleship. And in that book, the bottom line was he talked about the concept of cheap grace versus costly grace. Now, cheap grace, I would, without getting too deep into it here and taking up too much time, it's basically, that would be where your sins are forgiven. You realize that past, present, future sins, God, I got that get out of jail free card. By grace, I know that I am saved. but it's your life. There's not a sense of lordship, a commitment of living your life as a disciple of Christ. You're basically warming up the seat in the pew on Sunday, and the rest of the day, the rest of the week, you're doing your own thing. Versus cheap grace versus costly grace. This is the type of thing that he talked about. Grace, yes, it is a free gift, but it costs someone something. It cost Jesus his life. And he made that payment for you and for me. And we as Christians, what are we called to do? We're called to be disciples of Christ. We're called to step out of the boat like Peter. Take risks, take chances. Live life. Be the discipline. Do good deeds. Follow the example. Pray for the sick. Help the widow and the orphan. Commit to the Great Commission. Go out and evangelizing, telling others about Christ. That's what costly grace is about. And I got goosebumps when these young men were up here saying that. But it's more, I pray that you guys instill that in your heart and actually go out and commit to it by doing deeds. You know, we as Americans today are messed up. Our culture is wandering. We are struggling with what our legacy and what our identity is as a nation. A lot of men, and I want you guys to hear this too, because you're being programmed through the media and through our culture to buy into this myth that your identity, your worth, your self-value is wrapped around either what type of job you do or how much money that you make. Now, with the latest economic downturn, where our economy is getting bashed, a lot of guys are unemployed, underemployed. They're not satisfied with their job. They're turning around and they're looking, who am I? What is my purpose? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We were all created with one purpose in mind. Or it's actually two purposes in mind. Each and every one of us, to the point that it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a professional athlete, you're a fighter pilot, you're a fireman, a teacher, a businessman, it doesn't matter. We are created with basically two purposes in mind. That's to worship God and to make his name known. Everything else is ancillary to that. But we do get bombarded by our culture. We do get bombarded by the media. We are told, we get a mixed message from our environment as to who and what we should be as Christians. I mean, we are even inside the Christian community today are getting mixed messages. There's multiple beliefs about what it means to be a Christian. There's this whole consumer-based Christianity. There's this whole spectator Christianity aspect. Guys, we are called to live a life of costly grace and get in the game.